Da, 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 da. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today's chef is back by popular demand. He was referred to me by Sherry Soria, who was the owner of the culinary school I went to many years ago. He actually ran that school when it was still open, and he did such a wonderful job. You guys said, you've got to have him back. So we do, and he's making a phenomenal dish. A bloomed forbidden rice spring roll with a spicy mango mint sauce. What could be better, especially as the weather's heating up? Please welcome back Chef James Sand. It's so great to see you again.
Yes, great to see you too, Chef AJ. It's always fun to come on your show. And I have something that I think is perfect for the season. I'm all about seasonal food and people learning ways to just this time of year, go to the farmer's market and see all this wonderful daikon and radishes and carrots and fresh herbs coming on. And it's the season we're going into mangoes. And it's one of those dishes that is just perfect for the timing of where we're at right now. So
your set looks so beautiful.
Yeah, this is my plant-based or plant food kitchen. You know, I've got things growing and sprouting. And even my herbs live in jars out on the counter where they are part of the Living Foods kitchen here. So I'm going to be going over how to bloom rice. So many people think in raw food, you cannot use traditional rice. And yes, you can. You can use wild rice, which isn't actually a rice. That's the seed. That's the American rice that we all know, you know, wild rice, kind of a smoky flavor to it. But there's also this other one that I'm going to show you. I'm going to make a wonderful salad with it that will go into the wraps. I'm going to also show you some incredible, a technique for making your own wraps out of coconut meat and mango. So look at a cilantro wrap as one of the options to roll with. I'm also going to go over how to do traditional rice wrap spring rolls, you know, in the traditional way. We'll be putting a lot of dark leafy greens in there because, of course, that's how vegans get so much great protein and nutrients. I'm going to go over a peanut sauce that will go in the wrap that I've already made, but I'll just talk through it and show you the spicy mango mint sauce that we're going to use as a dipping sauce for it. And then we'll roll the wraps. So
I'm going to, because you know, there's a lot of wonderful plant-based chefs that are not necessarily good culinary instructors. And there's a lot of great culinary instructors that are not necessarily great chefs, but you really are the best of both worlds.
Well, thanks. This comes from 8 years of every single day, 6 days a week, getting up and giving a fantastic demo for people that had traveled from all over the planet. And I mean everywhere, Iceland, Africa, South America, and paid top dollar. And so I've learned to make it precise, give a good outline, dive in, give as much details as you can in the time allowed. So Living Light, of course, the sunflower on here is our homage to Anne Wigmore, which was such a great, powerful person in teaching all of us about sprouts and really one of the troubadours in the raw food movement. And so when I was teaching from all around the world, I did have some students from China at one point, and we did teach to bloom wild rice in our curriculum. But one of my Chinese students, actually two of them, there was a couple who was in there, came over and said, "Hey, did you know about forbidden rice, the emperor's rice from China?" And I said, "Well, I know about it. Yeah, because it had just hit the market in like 2012 or something. It was like kind of a new thing in the Americas. It actually was called forbidden rice because it was the emperor's private rice in the forbidden city in China. That's why it's also referred to as the emperor's rice. And it had been held tightly by the Chinese forever. Finally, they propagated it and got it out on the market and to the world. But the point this Chinese couple was making to me is it will bloom just like wild rice. And I was really excited, especially when I got a hold of some and tried it. This is one of the most healthy rices in the world. So because I'm doing what anyone can do at home, and I'm going to make this simple, I'm taking off the chef coat. That was an homage to Living Light, where I was at. And we're going to make wraps.
So, I love your shirt.
Yeah. Yes, this is my life. So first I'm going to go over those mango wraps that I mentioned. This is my spicy or sweet and spicy kind of mango wraps because I put in some peppers in there as well. I have them in the dehydrator here. I'll pull them out and give you a look. These are, there's actually 4 to a sheet on most of the sheets, my wraps, and all they are is young Thai coconut meat, mango, and Fresno chili, and cilantro, and a pinch of salt if you want, but you can make them without salt as well. And they're really wonderful, almost transparent, beautiful wraps that are, for those people that want to do this dish 100% raw, you know, I'm going to show you some rice wraps, but those are cooked. So that's cooked raw fusion. And if you want to stick with 100% raw, you can make these kind of, and on my YouTube today later, I did film this as I made them, and I will upload that video on the YouTube channel. So check out Plant Food Chef on YouTube for the full demo on this. I didn't want to take the time because we got some wraps to make, but you can go on and see the full demo on my YouTube channel. So I'll just set these over here and have them ready for when we get to them. Now, if you want, you can avoid having to open the young Thai coconut meat, by the way, for those, by using something like this. This is a new product. Look for it in the freezer department. If your health food store is not carrying it, ask them to. This is beautiful, organic, white, pure, young Thai coconut meat. Super easy to get. So anyone can do this now. A lot of people avoided young Thai coconuts because there's a whole process in opening. But make it easy on yourself.
That's the one thing I remember as a student at Living Light, how we had to open those coconuts, and boy,
Yep.
that was a process. You know, James, so many people are commenting on your shirt and they would like one. Is it something you sell on your website?
I found this online. I don't remember the name of the company. I'll put it in the comments. I'll look it up on my tag on my shirt later and put it into the comments so people can go on. They've got a lot of really great plant-based and vegan t-shirts. So yeah. So that's the wraps. And then we've got the spice, or the, let's talk about the rice first before I go on to the sauces. So this is the black forbidden rice. This is the company, Lotus Foods. Love this company and everything about it. Not just because they're making black rice, but because they are a part of a project that is teaching farming with less water to reserve resources, and it's woman run, and it's a really fantastic project. So go on to lotusfoods.com and look up their whole story. You'll love it. And when you see what you can make with this rice, even more. And by the way, they have other rices as well. Some of the heirloom rices, the ancient rices. So this is, it's a very black rice, very black. And see how I've only put like 1 cup in here. I'm going to fill this entire mason jar with hot water, not boiling water, because if you want to do it raw, just warm, you know, hot water. And then I'll set it in the dehydrator, or you could just put it in the oven on low with the door ajar if you want. That's if you want it to go a little faster. You can just put that warm water or hot water on it and let it sit overnight, and it will totally bloom. But it only took about 4 hours to bloom this one. I put it in the dehydrator at 115, and you can see it filled the jar. So when you go to do this, make sure that you fill it, and I mean fill it, with water, because this becomes this. It expands incredibly, more so than other cooked rices. It will shock you how much rice you will get out of this. Okay, so we'll get to that when I put the rice salad together for the wraps, but that's the bloomed rice. And it tastes really nutty, and it's hard to describe, but yeah, I like it even better than when I cook it. Now, if you don't want to bloom it, can you cook it? Sure. Stick it into your Instapot, 15 minutes, you know, it's done. Or just cook it on the stove. Directions are right on the back. But I'm showing living foods. And forbidden rice has so many incredible, it's a dark, all of the things that are dark purple tend to be the power foods. And they say it has more nutrition and more anti-cancer fighting abilities than blueberries, one of the all-time all-stars of the plant world. So it's a really great product. I really recommend that you look into it. Okay, so then I'm going to make some sauces here. There will be a sauce on that salad. There's going to be our mango dipping sauce and a peanut sauce that I'm not going to make, but I'll talk through how I got it made that will go inside of the wraps. So let's make that sweet and spicy mango mint sauce. Mangoes. I love mangoes. And this happens to be a Kent. There's Tommy Atkins. There's little champagne mangoes. There's all kinds of different mangoes out there. I really love them. I use them year round, but this is the time of year when they're coming into season and they're really sweet and juicy inside. And it's the time I really like to use them in cuisine. They kind of have a flat side and a wider side. So when you go to cut them, you're going to go down and just take the knife right on the side of the pit and slide it down the side. It's really easy. Like so. You can quarter those. And then if you take your knife and lay it flat and just fillet them, this is like, I grew up hunting salmon or fishing salmon in Alaska. So I have a lot of filleting, but look at how you can just easily get that right off there. So I feel like I'm filleting fish when I do this, but if you've got a good chef knife, these are so easy to peel. I can get a whole case of mangoes and easily get all the skins off using this method, just sliding that knife around. You quarter them after you've taken those cheeks off, and you can just slide it around and get that meat right off of there. And boom, that's finished. And that can just go over into the compost. So then I'm just going to rough chop these. You know, this is going in a blender, so there's no dicing involved. Since I have a mango out, I'll show you what I did for the wraps, because these are also fresh in the wraps. I love mangoes in wraps. They're an incredible thing to put in them. For the wraps, I just took the knife and cut them into just thin julienne strips, and I'll add that over into my wrap rolling ingredients there. But this is for the blender. I'm going to use a small vessel on my Vitamix because I'm not blending a ton of stuff. I've also got here Fresno chili. Love Fresno chilies. They're a little sweeter than a jalapeno and have a kick to them, but I really love the color they bring and the flavor they bring. I actually like them more than green jalapenos. So look for Fresnos. You could use a red jalapeno too, but that'll be hotter. Fresnos are a little less on the heat. So I have one of those in here. You can put 2 if you want it to have a real kick. I think the recipe even says for 2, but these are really hot. I always try my pepper when I open them. So I opened one earlier when I was cutting it up, and boom, it hit me on the tongue. So I said 1 chili's enough for this one. So we're going to put that into the blender, and I'll add a little bit more of this mango meat in there. Then I'm putting in coconut sugar and just a pinch of salt. But for those that want to do the no salt, don't put the salt in. You don't have to. Okay. And if you don't want to use coconut sugar, if you're looking to use totally unprocessed sugars, you can do date paste. I know that you love this, Chef AJ. This is that Devash organic date syrup that they make. Or you can make a date paste on your own by just soaking some medjool dates and sweeten it with that. Either of those will work. They tend to make it go a little more brown and dark in color. I'm all about color. I love the presentation of food. We eat with our eyes first. I like everything to be artistic and beautiful. So I'm choosing the coconut sugar for that reason. Coconut sugar, by the way, is a very healthy, low glycemic sugar choice. And I would always choose it over something like a cane sugar, which is going to have a high glycemic spike. So that's why I'm choosing that. Then layers. You could just make this and blend it up like it is, but it's going to be just like a mango smoothie that has a kick to it. But I like layers of flavor. So when you're blending fresh fruits like this, how can you give it even more depth in flavor? One trick that I learned in recipe development for 8 years with all these students from around the world is in a lot of cultures, they'll bring in dried fruit and rehydrate that and then add that to the sauce as well as the fresh fruit. And these are mangoes that I dried myself when I had extras in the dehydrator. But you can buy dried mango as well. It's going to give this richness in the background that the fresh doesn't have. The fresh is on the high notes. This is going to bring in this deep, low mango background to it. Okay, so I have soaked a 1/4 cup of dried mango in water. I'm just going to drain the water off real quick over the sink and pour all of that yummy dried mango in there with that. That's going to give this a real deep flavor. And then we will put that onto the Vitamix, and it goes really fast if you're plugged in. Okay, we can move this aside. Okay, so it's very easy to blend up. Now I'm ready to put my mint in. It is a mint mango sauce, but I didn't put that mint in right away because it would disappear into the background. I like the flecks of it floating around in the sauce, so you get these little more immediate zings of mint on your mouth. So I've just chiffonaded some mint. That's going to go in now. Let me make sure to go down in and burp. This is a thick mixture, so I'm sure there's an air bubble down on the blade in there. If you use a Vitamix, you know the vortex pulls that air down in and creates a little air pocket around the blade. So you got to burp it to get it going again. All right, I'm not going to overblend that. I can stir it through there. Perfect. Now this is going to be the dipping sauce. So this will go on to the final platter with the wraps. And it's super easy to do. I like easy food. I'm showing you things that are, I know you'd say, hey, there's so many components to this, but they're really quick. They're really easy. And so I'm all about making good, healthy food easy so anyone can do it. And by the way, this is a really fun recipe to get those kids up to the counter, get them up on stools and help make the wraps. Wraps are a great thing to do for parties at home as well. Put a little garnish on the bowl, and that's ready to go. So we've got that sauce made. And one more thing about mangoes, if you open them up, this is the casing that I took the meat off of. Inside, there's a little present. There's a little seed baby in there, okay? See that? And you have to soak this and kind of peel this brown paper off, and you can then get them, these I soaked, this one's starting to split apart and it's going to grow in and shoot a little seedling up. You can plant these and you can have a mango growing in your house. I love, when I'm working with seeds and living foods, I'm always saying, hey, will it sprout? Whenever I pop a seed out of something. And so I have, like this over here is a jackfruit tree that from the pods from a jackfruit that I opened. And I have lemon seeds ready to plant from a Meyer lemon tree that was really tasty. So I thought I'm going to grow these into a Meyer lemon tree. So you can have fun by just playing around whenever you're taking seeds out of something. See if you can sprout them. Google it. There's always great ideas out there of how to get that accomplished. So we've got our spicy mango mint dipping sauce. The other sauce that is involved in the wraps is a peanut sauce. And you can do this as a peanut butter sauce. You can do it as an almond butter sauce. You can do it as a tahini if you have nut allergies. So any of those will work. I didn't make the peanut butter. I did peanut butter because I like organic peanut butter. But almond butter is what's in the recipe. And almond butter is fantastic also. I just been using almonds a lot lately. And I thought I want to do a peanut sauce. So I did peanut. But I'm going to give you a pointer. Let me grab the jars. That we all should know when we're going to buy nut butters. If it says no stir, don't buy it. That they're putting palm oil in to stabilize and make it all creamy. It's okay if it's got some oil on the top and you got to stir it in. When you're buying peanut butter, it should say ingredients, peanuts. That's it. Okay? Same thing on almond butter. Same thing on tahini. Don't go for all the additives. Just stick with good quality nuts. And it really bothers me that even organic companies put the no stir out and put palm oil in. Why go ruin a great thing by putting a processed oil in it? The fats are natural in the nuts. Stick with that. Okay, there's my pointer on that. This sauce, the peanut sauce, let me grab that recipe here, has the nut butter of your choice, some fresh ginger, garlic clove, lemon juice, the date syrup for a sweetener. Got to sweeten it up, set off the saltiness of it with some sweet, a little bit of tamari, and that's to taste. You know, if you don't like it quite as salty, or if you're on a low salt diet, use low salt tamari. And then a red Thai curry paste, and I made my own. So I make fermented hot sauces, and one of the byproducts after I've sieved out the skins from it, I make a Thai curry paste with it. But you can buy a Thai curry paste, red Thai curry paste. When you're going to buy that, you know, that little bottle of red Thai curry paste, that company has some with fish in it and some without. So look for just not the roasted red Thai curry paste. That's going to have fish in it. If you want to be totally vegan, make sure you're reading the label when you get your red Thai curry paste. Okay, so that was it. And that's all just blended up. It's a wonderful classic peanut sauce that you can use in so many different ways. If you thin it down a little bit with a water, you can definitely make an incredible salad dressing of it. So if you have extra after you make your wraps, just put it in the fridge. You can use it as a peanut kind of salad dressing, and or on pasta. It'd be wonderful. On kelp noodles with some other veggies in it to make an Asian salad. There's a lot of different things you could do with this. I blended it in my smaller blender. This is just the Tri-Best. Some people have NutriBullets, whatever. It's a smaller amount, and I just didn't want to deal with it in a big Vitamix. You could make it in a Vitamix, though, or any blender. That's why it's in this little Tri-Best container, because that's what I had used to blend that up. So that's our peanut sauce. And then the salad. Let's make this rice salad so the flavors can come together in it while we're getting the rest of the stuff finished here. This is the bloomed rice. I'm just going to go over and pour it out really quick here at the sink. Shake it off a little bit. You don't want to have a lot of the water on it because it's going to be harder for the sauce to stick to it. So I'm giving it a few good shakes and put it in the bowl here. And then I have some chopped almonds that I'm going to put into there just for texture. And you could put cashews in, which is very classic also in a rice salad for an Asian salad. So cashews would work. If you're nut allergies, put some seeds in, put hemp seeds in, put sesame seeds in. Sesame, classic. So that's going to go in there. And some scallions. Got lots of beautiful spring onions coming up this time of year. I always have them just growing in a jar in my kitchen. And you can even trim off just the greens to put in something, and they just shoot up another green. They just keep growing. Just change that water every few days in them. But I have onions growing all the time in the kitchen. In fact, when they start growing out of an onion like this, I'll just let it go. And I chop off these and put them into sauces and salads, and more greens keep coming out. Because by the time the greens have come out, this is not really going to be as tasty to use an onion. So just let it be what it is. It wanted to grow greens. So let it be a part of the living kitchen. So I'm going to put those scallions in there that I've cut on a bias. I like the angled cut. That gives them more of a presence in it. I just like that shape that it gives in the salad. And then we've got a sauce here that's going on to the forbidden rice salad. All these Asian sauces have a lot of layers to them. That's what I love about Thai food and Vietnamese food and Southeast Asian food, is all the different layers of flavors. And they're all going to come together in this wrap in a really beautiful way. But this just has tamari mirin, which you can find in the Asian section at the store. I get an organic one. It's the Asawa organic mirin. Okay. Little bit of date syrup or coconut sugar. I use date syrup in this, fresh ginger, garlic clove. You see there's a common theme here going on with the kinds of Asian flavors. Now, because I'm on Chef AJ's show, normally when I make this, I would use a toasted sesame oil. And I thought, I'm going to do this oil-free because everything's going to be oil-free. that we're making here, but I still want that toasted sesame oil flavor. So of course I toasted some sesames. Just throw them into a pan on the stove. And yes, I know all the raw foodists out there and say, what? You're cooking something that's going in a raw food dish. Well, just don't do that if you don't want to do that. You could put a little tahini in here to bring a sesame flavor in. It's not going to be that toasted flavor. I love toasted sesame oil in Asian cooking. So my go around to get it in here was to just throw some, usually my stove's covered with a wood cutting board. You can see I don't use the stove much because it's a living food kitchen, but occasionally I'll pop something on the stove. So I toasted the sesame seeds and I put them in here and blended it in. And sure enough, I got that toasted sesame flavor without using an oil. So there's your oil-free conversion for that sauce. And then it has some lime zest in there. And that brings a really wonderful flavor to the background. And I would use, to do that, a microplane, wonderful tool like this, you know, and just go around and make sure that when you're zesting, you keep moving the lime around as you go. You don't want to go over the spot where you've taken the green off, or yellow in this case, and get that white stuff. That's bitter. We just want the green off the top of the lime. That's the sweet, yummy lime flavor that's going to go into your rice salad. Okay. And by the way, I know this lime is not dark green, but it's actually more ripe. Most people don't know that go and grab all those dark green limes because they think of dark green color when they're buying limes. The yellow ones are actually riper inside and sweeter inside. So that's why I buy the ones that have more of a yellow blush on them, because I'm aware that's the final ripening cycle. I already have some of that in the sauce, so I'm not going to worry about zesting a bunch of that. So then that was just all blended up. It's a real simple sauce, a real simple way to make a beautiful Asian salad here. And did that fit in there? Then I'm just going to toss it together. And this is the black forbidden rice has this nutty sweetness to it that I already mentioned, that's very different than cooking it. And I think you're going to see that you'll really love the flavor of it. Now, if you want it to have more of a kick than it already has, just flavor balance it at this point with some sriracha, which would be always awesome in something like this. Now, I'm always looking for great ways to bring in more protein into a dish. And since we're doing Asian, I thought edamame. I love fresh, organic, so you know it's not GMO, edamame. And so I'm going to plop some edamame in there. That wasn't on my original recipe, so just make a note of that. That's one of the wonderful things you can throw into this salad when you're making it, and add that to your recipe at home. I just was going through the fridge and I had bought some and I thought, oh, edamame, I'm going to put that in the salad, of course. Beautiful color, and of course, bringing even more protein. Soy, as we all know, is one of those power-packed deliveries for protein into a vegan diet. Okay, and so here we have, I just wanted to show you this one because I really like it and it's really tasty, organic sriracha, vegan organic sriracha. Love that company. Look for that one if you're going to be buying it. If you're getting into advanced studies with me, I'll show you how to make your own because it's not that hard. And this, of course, is my fermented hot sauce that I had put into here. I'm going to put a little bit more of that sriracha on here too. I really love what it does to this salad. Delicious. So that's ready. We've got our dipping sauce. We've got our filling that we're going to put into it. And then we've got this beautiful mise of all kinds of different things that I've been busy chopping up. And I'm going to go off the camera just for 1 second and plug in my second camera so you can get a bird's eye view as I move into rolling these wraps.
Isn't this fabulous, you guys? He's really a chef's chef. I'm seeing all your wonderful comments about him. I'll read a few.
All right, let me hit my boom. Isn't that awesome? Just got a new ATEM set up here because I'm doing a lot of live teaching so that I have different camera angles here. You can see the beautiful salad and the dipping sauce. These are I grew these. These are cilantro microgreens. Microgreens are fantastic. And one of the most incredible nutritious sources for healing too. Microgreens and sprouts, for anyone that's going through any kind of healing. These are sunflower sprouts, and these I grew on hemp mats. This is a hydroponic system, so I can keep the roots moist while they're growing. I'm just trying out different things. I also grow it in soil, but students ask me about these things. So I've grown it on coconut, I've grown it on hemp, I've grown it on paper towels, and I'm just comparing and contrasting the different ways that you can grow microgreens. This also I grew on soil, and I harvested it a few days ago. It's baby cilantro, love it. And it's perfect for something like wraps, okay? Then we have basil. Basil, mint, and cilantro are the trifecta of doing a Vietnamese wrap. If I can't get all those flavors in my mouth, I wonder if it's even gonna work for me. And I love the interplay of mint and basil and cilantro as you're eating something like this. The basil I didn't chiffonade down because we're putting a lot of leafy greens in here, and it's easy to bite off when you're eating it, and so that's fine. And I did chiffonade the mint. It just makes it easier to spread around into the wrap. Then I have carrots, and I'm going to show you how I like to create carrots for making wraps like this in a way that creates more volume for the carrots. Instead, because you could, a lot of times you'll see people creating, like I did with the daikon here, matchsticks of carrot. And that works, but they're really crunchy and not as easy to eat. And they're not as great a filler for the wrap. So if you just take a peeler, there's just your standard peeler here. And let me take the end of that carrot off. I can go over in the soup stock container. And we're just going to take this is really quick and easy to do. And just shaving with a peeler. They just fly everywhere, but that's fine. You get these ribbons, but the thing is they're really delicate ribbons. These will just melt in your mouth. They're easy to chew. They're not hard to crunch through and bite off when you're biting into a beautiful wrap. And they have more surface area, so they get really sweet. So that's how I prefer to do carrots when I'm doing a wrap like this. And if you could give it a try, just with a simple peeler, you'll see what I mean. It's about mouthfeel, and it's wonderful. And it really works well. Here I have, the light is kind of blowing these out, so it's hard to see them. But this is fresh radish. This guy looked like he was going to run away while I was trying to chop him. Look at the legs on that. These are fresh from the farmer's market at Nye Ranch, right up the highway here that I visited yesterday, and daikon, both fresh from the spring crop. So I have daikon and the radish, wonderful ingredients for an Asian wrap, gives it a little bit of drama in there, but sweetness as well. I have the scallions, the spring onions that I showed you, cut on a bias, you know, and that's just a sharp angle. So they have that more wonderful, you can straight cut them, but it's a sexier cut. I'm about sexy food. So I like cutting them on a bias. Then I have mango, yum, for any kind of Asian wrap. I just love it. And then I have bell peppers, and I just chop the top and the bottom off the bell pepper, and then you can just go and make them into little julienne strips. They're just easy to put through your wrap when they're in thin julienne strips. Okay, so, and I have red, orange, and yellow because why not? I'm all about the bright colors of spring, and this wrap is going to be beautiful in that way. So we have red, yellow, orange, bell pepper, and then the mango, and we're ready to go. And another great thing that I love to put in wraps, look at all these colors. I mean, this is, I always tell my students, eat the rainbow. Every color has all of the different phytonutrients and vitamins that are rich for that part of your diet. So purple cabbage, gotta love it, but it's a little rough to just put in something like this as is. So I've thin sliced it, and then I squoze a lime over it, okay? And I gave it a quick massage. Starts turning a little pinker, but it has a much better mouth feel and will be easier to eat in a wrap, okay? So I put this in a lot of tacos, got to do it also. So I love purple lime-soaked cabbage, and also a powerhouse of nutrients, anything purple, like I said. And so mung beans are typically grown in or put into Asian food. This is ones that I just sprouted myself. Love these little lids, by the way. I found these. And these are so that you can pour the water in and keep draining it out once a day while you're growing the little tails on them. And the genius thing that someone came up with on this one is not only that you can use the handle to pour it out, but then it has an angled thing bloop, where it doesn't go all the way down. So it's still draining out, but it sits at an angle over on a plate on the side. So you don't have to get a dish rack to do these in. You can find these on Amazon, really great. And they're BPA free plastic. So these are mung bean sprouts, another fantastic thing. You can grow your own or you can buy them in the store. Really powerful nutrients, as all sprouts have. And I do put these in salads and smoothies and all kinds of different, they're just so usable in so many different ways. Then I have another classic ingredient that a lot of people like to put into wraps, and that is kelp noodles. Now, I know there's also rice noodles, but we're putting a rice salad in here. So I don't want to do starch. So I'm using a kelp noodle. I'm bringing some of the ocean into this. I'm bringing seaweed. Seaweed is wonderful for us. It has iodine and all kinds of great nutrients in it. And what I've done here is taken, and they're cooked already. So this is also cooked raw fusion, but I did take and pour some boiling water and some lemon on here to soften it up. People also use salt, but because I'm trying to be really low salt on this entire recipe, so we have the oil and the salt taken out, which I know Chef AJ loves. So I have just put that into boiling lime water, and I'm gonna drain it off now so that it will be ready to roll with, and that's ready. And I kind of love that texture of those glass noodles or Asian noodles. And these are like the rice glass noodles, but they're seaweed. And if any way you can find to bring seaweed into your diet, the better. Okay, so that's all of my wide array of mise en place. One other little thing here I had when I was cleaning out the fridge today, I found that I have some wonderful Cayenne, love these. My lacto fermented chili peppers would be amazing in these wraps, of course, and will deliver an amazing flavor in the background. Little heat zings as you're eating it, okay? So just surround yourself with your mise en place once you've put all this together. And like I said, this is a great idea for a dinner party. Imagine, just telling people what to bring. You're going to bring the purple cabbage. You're going to bring carrots and daikon. You're going to bring this, that, and then prep it all together. I like food bringing people together. It has for centuries. We need to go back to that. Instead of thinking of going and buying it all at the store, let's make it fun. And then you're going to get the kids up to the counter here, and we're all going to, I guarantee you, they're going to be eating these wraps in a way they never would if you rolled it for them and threw it in front of them. And I learned this with my own kids, whether it was making pizza or whatever. If I put a bunch of mise en place out, they were going to get so creative in making their own little pizza or wrap or whatever it is. They're going to eat things they wouldn't have eaten if I did it and just put it in front of them. And they pull that typical kid response of, what's in it? And they start picking it apart and they don't want to eat it. So get those kids up here and have fun with them. I'm going to bring the peanut sauce over here. So the only last thing that I want to mention is dark leafy greens, because I love putting greens into my wraps as well as the mango wraps that I will show you, and the rice papers. But there's collard greens, there's cabbage, there's these, look at these heirloom lettuces that I got at Fortunate Farm right down the street. Gorgeous. And these are perfect for what I'm going to be doing. So I'll be grabbing some of those, and got some collards. Now these collard greens I dipped in hot water. I actually like the taste better of collards that have been blanched a little bit. They're much easier on the mouth, much easier to eat. So just dip them in hot water really fast. And then I ran them under cold water and dried them off a little bit so they're easier to roll. And here's a little tip. When you have a strong stem, and if you're going to be rolling it, the stem is going to crack when you're using collards or something like that. So cut the thicker part of the stem off, and then with attention, make sure that you're paying attention. Put your finger under that stem on one side, and you can trim that stem off. And then it will be easy to roll without cracking the stem. Okay, so that's the collards. Now, since I'm going to be using rice paper wraps, I'm going to go over to the sink and pour water over my wood cutting board real quick, because if you've ever done the rice paper wraps, and here's the ones that I got, you'll know that once you wet them and put them on the board to roll with them, sometimes you can't get them back up off the wood. The wood actually sucks the water out of the wrap, and then it's stuck to your cutting board. So even whether it's plastic or wood, it can happen. So wet your cutting board, and then your rice wraps won't stick to the cutting board. Okay, that's a good tip. So remember that one. Okay, so my board is wet. I have some tepid water here. By that, I mean it's not boiling hot, it's not freezing cold, it's just kind of room temperature water. And I can take my wrap, and I'm going to be doing two. I like a thick burrito size wrap. And so I can't get that into just one of these, okay? So I'm going to dip it into the water and just spin it around, make sure that it gets wet on all the different sides. You don't have to keep it in there too long. It doesn't take very long for it to get saturated, and lay it down on the board. And we'll do one more. Okay. And so they're in kind of a figure 8 on here. So not sure if they become transparent. So they're kind of hard to see once you get to that stage. And now we're going to lay down our greens. That's when my greens come into play. So if I was going to be putting some of this beautiful heirloom lettuce in, I'll take 2 leaves and lay them across like so on here. And the next thing is my peanut sauce. So let me grab a spoon here and put this.
James, you know what you're being called? You're being called a magical food wizard.
I love it. I love it. I love to dance with food. That's for sure. So I'm putting this sauce across. You know, you're going to eat this from one end to the other. So if you want some peanut sauce in each bite, spread it all the way across, horizontal. It should make sense. All right. So spread that across the top there. And this is thick. And like I said, you can thin this for a dressing, but I left it thick on purpose because I don't want it running everywhere when I'm building a wrap. I need it to be under control. And so then, it's up to you to play at this point. So, let's put some red in there with the bell pepper. Let's get some mango in there for sure. Mango can be kind of slimy when I'm rolling it later. So I get that down in there and layer it in early. Of course, the rice salad, which is going to add a wonderful depth to this wrap, where it won't be just a typical salad kind of spring roll. It's going to have more deep flavor with that wonderful bloomed rice in there. Get some cilantro across there, some of that wonderful carrot that is cut into thin ribbons, some basil all the way across, of course, so that we get some basil flavor in each bite, and mint. And the mint I don't put quite as much, but I love that flavor all the way through there. and some scallions and daikon. This is a full meal deal here that we're making. And then I have the purple cabbage. And also, if you want, well, I'll do that on the second one. We'll just stick with what we've got in here on the first one. So then peel this up, bring it around. Once you've got your rice paper wraps wet, you got to stick with it and just dive in and get it done. Don't go take a phone call and get sidetracked, because you've got a certain time frame under which these rice wraps will become too soggy, and then they're not going to be holding together well for you. Okay, so I've got that one done. I'm just going to let it sit over at the end of the board and kind of gel together before we cut it to place it onto the platter. And so we'll move that aside, and let's do another one. This time I'm going to do the mango wrap. So let's bring a dry cutting board over here. I don't need to have the wet cutting board when I'm doing mango. So this one I don't need to do a figure eight. I'm probably just going to do a smaller, beautiful little, and why not change up the greens, you know? And when I was tasting the greens on the daikon, and they're actually really tasty, and I thought these would be really nice in a wrap. So I'm going to grab some of those. I mean, look at this. This is what I come back from the farmer's market with. When I buy my veggies, I buy them with the greens. This is great for soup stock. It's great for salads. It's great for juicing. So I'm not looking for the carrots that don't have the tops on, or the daikon or whatever without the tops. But in this case, these greens I'm going to pull off and throw into the wrap also, because these, I love the little spicy zing on the daikon greens. So let's play with that. I was driving home in the car with them sitting on the seat, and I thought, I wonder how that tastes. So I just popped one in my mouth, and I thought, oh yeah, that's going in the wrap for sure. So just lay those across horizontally. I'll put 3 of them in there. And then we can just start building with different components here. I'm not going to put quite as much in this one. These are going to be more petite. And I'm going to roll them a little differently, and I'll show you that as well. Some of that peanut sauce in there, of course. And let's put some kick in there. Some of my fermented cayenne peppers. Yum. These are from last fall. They last so long when I make my lacto ferments. And I make a lot of them. So there's lots of, and I love peppers. So I have all kinds of heirloom peppers, but these wonderful long cayenne, I mean, they're really long. I love how they turn out in a simple lacto ferment. So, and some mint, of course, got to have that in there, and some basil. And then I'm going to roll this one kind of in a cone. And on these, you're going to want something to hold them together. So I have some little toothpicks here. Okay, so we can roll around and bring it together. And then you got to hold it together to present it. So just take a toothpick and pierce it through there. And oops, I didn't get the other side of the wrap. Make sure it's across. And a note on toothpicks. I like to buy toothpicks that either have a frill on the end or something on them, because I don't like to serve food and have people bite into a toothpick. That's not nice on anyone's mouth. So if you're going to be holding your food together with toothpicks, make sure that you have a toothpick that is going to show. Okay, see how that toothpick has a little red frill on the end there. Nobody's going to accidentally pick that up and take a bite and end up with a sharp toothpick in the roof of their mouth. That's not fun. Okay, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. So let me grab my platter here. And yes, of course, this is from my own pottery studio. I like to put my food on my own artwork here. We've got that wonderful dipping sauce. So we're going to start building our presentation of wraps here. So, and now this one has come together more and is stable. And I like to cut these on a bias. You know, I keep saying that I like that angled or sexier cut. Well, here's the reason why. When you cut this on a bias, then you can turn it and you get to see all the wonderful ingredients that are inside. Okay, so when you place it on your platter, it's gorgeous. Okay, where if you did a straight cut, you wouldn't get that wonderful cross cut that's laid out of all the wonderful ingredients. Okay, so we'll put that over there. And then, of course, there's just, because a lot of people don't want to do the cooked, you can just do a wrap with collard. Like I showed you a minute ago. Now you can wrap collard this direction or you can wrap it this direction. Either way, if you're doing it this way, you got to thin that stem like I did. And another great tip is to take a glass and roll that stem. You know, even after if you've trimmed it down, then it's going to roll up easily without breaking the stem. Okay, so just be aware that if you've got that thick stem in there, either take a knife and cut it down or take a glass and roll it down, and it's going to be much easier to use. Okay, let me find where there it is. Cut the end of that one off. I do like just collard wraps. They're a classic green to use in raw foods. A lot of people do collard wraps. They're wonderful. Of course, just peanut sauce again, and mango, cilantro, and carrot. Oops. And basil, mint. So many great things to put in here. And some of the scallions and that purple cabbage for sure. Love that. Color is just incredible. And then let's put some of that kelp noodles in this one. And a little bit of mung bean sprouts in there also. I forgot those on the other one. So, and then just roll these up. Let me see how I overlayered that. Nope. I'm gonna roll it backwards then. Let me turn this around. Just looking at how I overlapped the leaves so that they will come together in the right way. And just roll that up tight. And this is another one where I won't cut this one in half. It'll be just wonderful to eat just like that. That I would secure with one of these wonderful long toothpicks. So just take that and pop it right through there, where people visibly can see the toothpick, and it goes on to the platter. So it's just so quick and easy, and it's just so fun to make good, healthy food in this season. Here we have the collard wraps, the Asian wraps with the rice paper and the leafy green on the inside. You can see all the wonderful colors there by doing the bias cut. We've got the incredible dipping sauce with that mint and mango in it. And we've got the totally raw wraps that are made from coconut and mango. So all of these are incredible, and they're like a dance in different flavors, and you can play, and I love playing with food. So that's my goal. So I highly recommend that you take this up as a family affair, get everyone to the table, and don't make the wraps for people. Set out on a counter somewhere, all the mise en place, and let everyone make your own wrap. Let it be individual. You know, we each have the things that we love more that we want to put into our wraps. So is there any questions people have been popping up with while I've been going through this, Chef AJ?
So enthralled watching this presentation, I haven't been monitoring the chat. I'm going to go through it now.
Okay.
Comment about how brilliant of a chef an instructor you are, just people just throwing so much love. I'm going to check the chat for you in a sec, but I was wondering if you could mention a couple of Brenda's products, because I really wanted to have her on the show. But
thank you for backing up to that. I have it out, and I was going to mention that because when people are wondering how I shape, did I put it down in here? Yes, these beautiful, if they're thinking, boy, he has real skills on shaping a circle, I cheated. And I have a wonderful friend, Brenda Hinton, who made this incredible template that you put down onto your dehydrator trays and cheat. So I put a 1/4 cup of that batter in here, and you'll see this in play when you watch the video that I'm uploading to the YouTube, which goes over how I created these wraps. But you just spread them in and simply pull it away, and they're ready to go into the dehydrator. If I was doing like a Saturday market where I had a stand where I was making and selling wraps, which actually is one of the most profitable things you can do in food service, by the way. People love wraps and can have all kinds of dipping sauces and different things they can put in them, and they can customize them. I would want them all to match. People don't want to, have all these random sizes of wraps. You want to look professional. Something like this is a game changer in that. So rawsomecreations.com, Brenda Hinton, who also was an instructor at Living Light and is a wonderful, wonderful soul, that came out with nut milk bags and templates. There's even smaller little templates in different sizes, and she's got them for the Sedona as well as the Excalibur. So great company. So there's our plug for wonderful Brenda.
I didn't realize she was an instructor, but she said she was too shy to come on. But guys, I do want to show that these templates come in different sizes. So if you want to nachos, you can have the little size. And then if you wanted to make pancakes, you could have the medium size.
Ooh, that's a new one. I haven't seen the pancake.
Cool. And then there's even one in between the one that you showed and then the one that James used. So there's 4 sizes of her rawsomecreations.com.
Awesome.
And she also has these beautiful nut milk bags, which maybe you could talk about these, James. There's different mesh sizes.
There's different mesh sizes because there's different sauces and different things that I'm putting through them. I definitely am aware of the size of the mesh for what I'm doing. Whether I'm going to be sieving out and wanting a little bit more texture in there or not on a nut milk or any other kind of infusion kind of thing. I use them for infusing. I do infusion stocks in the dehydrator where I'm putting in all kinds of herbs and galangal root and lemongrass and all this for a Thai soup or something. Put it in that nut milk bag and hang it inside the gallon jar. And it's just super easy. And that one I can use the large mesh. It doesn't matter. They're bigger chunks of stuff, and I just hang it inside the jar and create an incredible pho that's raw. It's never been boiled on the stove. I also do cooked stocks occasionally to use up my kitchen scraps, but I do raw ones also. And so they're not just for nut milk. There's a lot of different uses that you can, and when I'm making jam, that's another great example. If I don't want the seeds in the raspberry jam, of course, I'm going to put it through one of Brenda's bags. And so,
bag? Are you telling me you could sprout in one of these bags?
Oh, you can sprout in them for sure. Yeah, if you're traveling, take them with you, because the sprouts, like here, I forgot to point these out too. They weren't quite finished. These need about another day. I have some daikon sprouts going. I have broccoli up there. I have clover and daikon. I've always got sprouts going. But I'm using a glass jar with a mesh on the end at home. But if you're traveling, in my travel kit, and I have a wonderful travel in the raw or travel plant-based demo that I'm going to film and put up online, that's one of the things I would always have in there is a nut milk bag, because you can just put your seeds in a nut milk bag and hang it in the shower area or wherever you want in the bathroom, in your hotel room when you're traveling, and grow sprouts. And it's easy, just run it under the water and wet them and then just hang them back up and boom, you'll have a whole bag full of sprouts. And they're easy to water, easy to deal with. It's like sprouts on the road. Those bags are a wonderful trick for that.
You have literally blown my mind. I have done almost 500 of these shows, but I'm serious when I say I learn at least one new thing every show. And this is fantastic because the glass jars, they get a little clumsy and I don't have a place for them. I'm going to do it because I just started sprouting.
It's easy. and you can pack them with you. And I make nut milks on the road too. And like I said, this Tri-Best that I made the sauce in, this has these 2 containers come with it. So they go with me. They have lids for them. So I can make a smoothie in the morning. I can make my nut milks. I can make a soup, salad dressings. But when I'm making the nut milk, I can take the pulp out of the almonds with one of her nut milk bags. So that's always in the travel kit too. And a tiny blender. These can easily pack away into a suitcase because the world's open to me if I have a blender of some kind. I use them a lot. I make all kinds of sauces. It's all about the sauce. It's always about the sauce. And when I'm traveling, I'm always going to be finding wonderful, fresh ingredients that I want to make sauces with. And the nut milk bag and a blender, I got to have them with me. So, yeah. And she's just such a wonderful person, too. I love Brenda.
So
hi to Brenda up in Walla Walla.
RollsYield.com if you want to check out those products. I want to thank Mary for the super chat donation. And there are a few questions. And one is from Apple. Do you teach an online fermenting class?
Absolutely. I've been in a sabbatical during this entire COVID. in this beautiful cabin that I live in the Redwoods, I have been going through 8 years of curriculum and my notes of hits and misses and coordinating them into, you should see my table over near the window with the numbers of colored folders on everything from cheese making to every kind of ferment you can imagine, to all kinds of sauces, to sprouting, to high-end kind of gourmet raw food stuff, and all the basics and everything between. I'm going to be coming out with a series of classes that can be stacked upon each other for a certification, just like we did at Living Light, but can be cherry-picked apart. And fermentation is definitely, they call me a fermentation station. I ferment everything. And so that will definitely be in the offerings that I'm going to have. And I've been looking, and as I had shoulder surgery this year, so I was really kind of taken out, and you really just got to sit back, relax, and heal, and so that's what I did. And I went through, and I'm telling you, my mind was blown with all the different, I'm so glad that I kept every note. And who knew that I would have a full year to sit back and go through and coordinate all of the hits and misses that are brought together with ideas from people all over the planet. We were a crucible in the studio at Living Light of ideas from every corner of the planet. And they all brought the people from India, my understanding of spices and things like idli, fermented idli breads. And my mind was blown constantly from all these different people. It's all coming together into this most amazing version of what I used to do, but actually better, because I do raw fusion. I'm not afraid to bring some cooked into it. And there's a place for 100% raw and healing, but it's not where I'm at. And I'm about living foods. Yes, like Ocean said on your show last week, but there's a difference between living and raw foods. Okay. And if you're doing 100% raw, there's a lot of limitations. And if I want to use a rice paper, but I know it's cooked, I'm going to do it. If I want to toast some sesame seeds to make an oil-free sesame flavor in the salad, I'm going to do it. But those people that are 100% raw and take it to a religious extent would never do that. And then, you can't call that dish raw. Well, I can call it living foods, and I'm going to do it. And I'm having a lot more fun and creating so many layers of gourmet food for the palate. And so if anyone that wants to take your raw food and take it up a notch, come study with me. I'll show you ways. And believe me, I have seen it all, heard it all, after teaching gourmet, the highest level in raw for so many years, and doing alchemy. A lot of what we did in gourmet was throwing ingredients out and putting teams at a table and saying, go, you're going to make this. But they were troubleshooting and failing and having grand successes. And sometimes just a little tip of something they did, I would run back to my office and write it down, because it was the game changer for something I was trying to do at home. And now I've got it because of some little tip of a hit and miss that I saw in the classroom. So I have some of the best cookbooks in the entire world, and they're cooked. They're vegan. They're some of the best cooked vegan books, and I go through them and convert them even more into living food. They might have a little bit of cooked in them, but they are mostly living foods. The most powerful phytonutrients, vitamins, and enzymes you can get out of something is going to be when it leans more towards living. And so but I don't want to, I have two books I'm going to show you that will put it in a nutshell. I went from this was the first raw food book that really turned me on to everything, Raw Food for Everybody. And Alyssa Cohen's book, it's still one of the classics for me. Before I met Sherry Soria, I even had cooked my way through this, or uncooked my way through this. And before I studied with Russell James online, and before I went on to go through all of everything at Living Light. But then more recently, this, Catching Fire. Read that book. That'll wake you up. Fire is a part of the human experience. And in the culinary world, it's intimately a part of who we are and how we have developed as humans. Now, that being said, we've gotten too reliant on the stove and buying everything processed, where it's already been cooked, irradiated, sterilized, going back to this, real ingredients, using a little of this and a lot of this, and you're going to know optimal health like you cannot imagine. I'm telling you, the energy, do I look like I'm almost 60 years old? I have the energy of a 25-year-old. And a little bit more than a year from now, I'm 60. But I have the energy that I had in my 20s. And it's because I have developed a nonstop exploration of living foods. Began with 100% raw to heal through a tragic accident, but I learned so much I wasn't willing to turn back. And now I'm bringing it full circle with cooked raw fusion. So.
Well, could I love you any more for what you said and showing that book? Because I respect people wherever they are 100% raw, but I don't quite understand why the people that think it's better or necessary. That's why I'll be having a whole week of raw food with Dr. Graham on to hear his take on it. You know, I understand what you're saying for healing. I did the same thing when I had colon cancer. I did all raw. Yeah, it's so interesting. And that book, as a matter of fact, was recommended to me years ago by all of the True North doctors, because it talks about how cooking made us human and how they believe that our brains didn't even increase in size until we started cooking food. And we've been cooking
Exactly.
like longer now than we've been eating raw food. But I found the most interesting thing in that book, James, and that kind of made a case for why some people at least might want to cook their food, is that when they did experiments with animals, see, no animal cooks its food other than humans. I mean, you know, a dog can't cook its food on nature, or a snake. They eat their food raw unless we give it to them. But when they studied animals that didn't cook their food, like a snake, they ate more and seemed to enjoy it more when it was cooked.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. But there's also a lot of great science to, you know, having how more hydrated we are, and as if our body is breaking the waters out of wonderful raw produce versus cooking it, where we've already broken the cells open and taken the water out of it. So even though it may even be wet coming out the stove, it's more dehydrating. That's why people have to chug a bunch of water. Well, you're going to notice your skin turn younger. My skin used to be really crepe papery because of production pottery for 20 years. And I thought, oh, I'm just getting old. It was when I was turning about 50. But when I went and healed myself with living foods, the one thing I noticed, I mean, we all get out of the shower and look at ourselves and, you know, you say, oh, I'm starting to sag, or my skin, blah, blah, blah. No, it turned around within 3 months. The skin on my arms that had been becoming that crepe paper kind of feel was as soft as a baby's bottom. And I thought, what the heck is that? I didn't even know the science of it at that point. I just loved what I was seeing, you know? So, but that being said, I'm not afraid to fuse together. Like, I make an incredible, and it's another video that's going up on YouTube soon is my zone broth, my answer to bone broth. And it is a mineral-rich broth that is to die for. It has seaweed and dried mushrooms and all kinds of wonderful stuff in it, but I cook it. I got to cook it for 5 hours. it's not about vitamins, phytonutrients, enzymes. Those are all cooked out of it, but minerals don't cook away. And it becomes this mineral rich broth that is so incredible with electrolytes and the natural sodium in it for your body and hydrating. And then I'm gonna fuse that with a wonderful pho, very similar ingredients to here, but I cut them real delicate, like the carrots I did, and they're put into a bowl, and then the hot broth is poured over them, and you eat it with, you haven't put the veggies in on the stove and cooked them into oblivion. This is cooked raw fusion, where you get the best of both. Nothing wrong with a mineral rich broth, but let's bring it and do a dance with living foods and bring them together. And that soup is, 90% raw veggie stuff with a little bit of hot broth. So it's the best of both. And that's what I like to do. Dance in both realms.
I think that's wonderful. And Chef, we have a registered dietitian, plant-based registered dietitian, Vasanto Molina, watching, and she says you're amazing. And Vasanto, email me, because you've never been on the show. Maybe you can come on and do a cooking demo. Jesse wants to know if it's something roasted, is it no longer living, or does it depend on the temperature or how long you roast it?
Okay, and he's referring to that I toasted the sesame seeds. Is that what he's talking about?
I mean, that was the only thing you toasted, so
yeah. And it was because of flavor, and most the sesame seeds I would want to put in a raw dish, I would keep raw, but toasting some, and I'm not toasting them until they're black, just barely toasting them to bring the flavor up and bring in that roasted, in this case, replacing the toasted sesame oil, which a lot of raw foodists use. Well, how do you think they got the toasted sesame oil? They toasted some sesame. Okay, so people get too hung up over it. But to that end, on nuts, they are so much healthier for us when they're soaked to get the enzyme inhibitors off of them, which I always do, but then not roasted. They actually can develop free radicals when they're roasted. And so I don't roast, and I don't buy roasted nuts. I buy raw nuts, and I try and use them raw, because there are free radicals that become involved when you take them and over toast them. So yes, it is an issue that people should know about. And I wouldn't go around toasting everything, but if it's for the flavor in a dish and I want to do it a little bit, I'm not going to have a problem with it. Every single thing doesn't have to be so religiously raw. It's okay to toast it every now and then to bring in a little bit of a toasted flavor or something. And we get a little bit too hung up when it becomes more of a religion than a reality, especially as a chef. It's tying both hands behind your back. But believe me, I can do 100% raw, and in ways that will blow your mind on a gourmet level that don't involve those things. But I also like to play and have some fun on the side. And so I can go there for someone that is healing and really wants to stick 100% raw. I will still blow their mind, because like I said, I've sat in the studio and alchemized and troubleshot everything you can imagine. And I have some things like bagels that are totally raw that will just blow your mind, or pasta that I make with butternut squash that is totally raw. It's been softened in a way and then made into a batter and put onto sheets. And then I roll them into tortellinis, and it melts in your mouth. It's the most incredible pasta. It is a pasta with buckwheat in it, buckwheat flour for the background, which you can eat raw. Buckwheat is a wonderful, all these wonderful tricks in alchemy that I've come up with over the years. And by the way, those tortellinis I can then put in the dehydrator after I put the cheese filling in, dehydrate them until they're dry, and store them in the pantry. They don't even have to go in the fridge. And you can just drop them into a warm miso broth or anything. They immediately rehydrate, and they hold their integrity as a tortellini and melt in your mouth. I have so many tricks up my sleeve. If you want to go down the 100% raw path, that will blow your mind as well. But I'm not afraid. And when I'm teaching, by the way, if someone says, I can't learn from him because he's not 100% raw. No, what you're going to learn from me is the options in everyone, like I did here. I always give all the options. So if I'm going to be bringing in a cooked element, I will say, here's how you would make this pho broth in a dehydrator if you want to do it raw. But here's how you could do a wonderful, rich, mineral-rich broth if you want to do the cooked version. And I'll show both, so I can go either way and show people options always. If they want to take that 100% raw path on any of my gourmet recipes, it's there. But I will also give options to bring in, like an incredible minestrone soup with, why not, some cooked and then chilled or cooled down beans in it, kidney beans or whatever you want to put into there, or some barley, which is really classic in a good minestrone soup. 95% of the whole thing is raw, but if you want to bring in a little bit more protein, put some cooked beans in there, have some fun, and it works. So, but you don't have to. You could still make it 100% raw.
That's great. I love that. Somebody, Jean writes, Iron Chef Challenge, James versus Timmerie. But we talked before you came on about you coming on during the Iron Chef week. I have one day left on a Thursday, but I think, wouldn't you rather go against a raw chef?
Probably.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
Maybe like Ocean, if he'll do it.
Yeah, that would be great. I've never even met Ocean in person. I think we've crossed paths coming and going at Veg Fest, where a lot of us, I think I've even been at ones that you're at. And you had been on just before me, and I got to know you through Zoom, not from the Veg Fest, because we're all busy getting our own demos ready and getting our mind around what we're going to go up on the stage and do at the Veg Fest. And I've done a lot of Veg Fest with Brenda and Visanto. Hi, Visanto. I saw that you mentioned her. I do food. They write the most incredible books on kicking diabetes, on the raw diet, on the vegan diet, on the vegetarian diet. And I go up and do food demos with them at Veg Fest while they're talking the science and I'm making the food. Really fun.
That's great. Yeah. Tina says, can you ferment without salt?
Ferment without salt? Yes, is the answer to that. There's lactofermentation, where we're taking a salt brine, and that's a really ancient method, and it really is great and works, and it's logical how people figured out that ocean water would preserve things and then or bring out, they didn't know what they were back then probably, but these lactobacillus basically that make things preserve, like these incredible cayenne peppers that I put into my wraps. That's the salt method. But then there's probiotics culturing. Okay, there's lactofermenting and then there's culturing. So now we have culturing as well. And that is going to involve inoculating into your ferment what is the one that I use? It's not acidophilus, it's a bifidus that I really like. Acidophilus works also. And I do these in people that want to have low sodium or no salt ferments. Some things it works better with, some not. But there are other paths, like on a kraut. You can juice, instead of using the salt to pull out the juice like you typically do out of cabbage, you can juice half a head in your juicer, and then you've got your brine. You've pulled it out without using salt, and you can ferment your cabbage that way as well, and that will work. And you can also introduce other inoculants into there if you want. You don't have to. Cabbage is one of those miracle that the brine from cabbage will just ferment beautifully. Now, if you're not using salt brine, though, be aware you really need to sterilize, because salt, the salinity in it, prevents unbeneficial bacteria from happening and makes it more food safe when you're doing fermentation. So you have to really, like, I would go to like a brew supply and get their natural sterilizing powders that they use for all the beer bottles and the kegs and everything and really get sterile with all your jars you're going into and your equipment. Because without that salinity of that brine, it can be more dangerous. And you want to be safe if you're playing around with fermentation. So.
Wow. And Gina says, we are all in love with Chef James.
I wonder if that's Gina Hudson that taught with me.
I don't know. I don't think that's her last name. It's the Gina.
Okay.
But anyway, it's interesting.
Yeah, I have students tapping in from Israel, from India, from Florida, from Iceland, Tina. From all over the world. I have people on every continent that I've taught, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds for the last 8 years.
Even Antarctica? Even Antarctica.
Not Antarctica. Sorry. Yeah, well, probably. Who knows? Maybe a chef got hired on a rig down there. came through my training. But yes, and that's what I used to say in the class. The only continent that I don't have someone from is Antarctica, for sure.
Well, that's really funny because the reason I know a little bit about Antarctica, I was researching it because I am deathly afraid of spiders, especially large ones. And I moved to the desert recently, and we've got some. It was a really scary.
Oh, there's some doozies in the Palm Spring area. Yeah.
And I'm vegan, so I don't kill them. We have this thing called the bazooka where you suction it gently out and then we relocate it. But this thing was so big, and he was in my house, and I'm still having like PTSD. So where can I move where there's no spiders? And the only place was Antarctica, but my husband.
Well, they're bigger in some places, up in Alaska where I grew up, we had to worry about getting chased by a grizzly bear or a brown bear, but the spiders were pretty small. I didn't really even think about them. And then I came down here and definitely saw bigger spiders, tarantulas and different things that we didn't even have up there. So, wherever you live, there's something. Snakes or even scorpions where you're at. I know when my sister moved to Palm Springs, within a week, they had a scorpion in the crib with her newborn baby. She was just about ready to move out of town when that happened.
Do you have family in the area?
Not anymore. They moved down and lived. Well, actually, some of their kids are still there in Palm Springs, Cathedral City area, and they went up to Eastern Washington now.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I used to go down there, and boy, I know you're not there yet, but I went in the summer and it's like never again. Whew, run from the air-conditioned car into the air-conditioned house. I don't know how you do it.
No, you neuro adapt, and plus I love the heat's great here. There's an RDN watching who made a comment that there's a documentary called "Did Cooking Make Us Human?" and I found it on BBC, and it sounds like it might be right up our alley based on
Yeah, I think I've seen that one. It might have been a while back, but I watch everything. If you're a chef, you're going to expose yourself, like Chef's Table. Come on, like the best television series ever produced, I think. I can watch every episode of the Chef's Table again and again and again. They get into the soul and the being and the reason and the connection to the environment and the seasonality and the traditions of food. And you watch that stuff more and more and more, and you realize cooking has to be a part of the food experience. It just does, but there's also all of the wonderful pickling and preserving from Asia. I love Japan is off the chart with their understanding in pickling. And that's another way, by the way, when we were talking about salt-free preserving, of course, you can pickle with vinegars. And you can even make your own vinegars. I will show anyone how to make fruit vinegars from scratch. And quick, and all of the plethora of quick pickles you can make. So
I've taken the California balsamic like in a flavor like dill mustard and sliced cucumbers or onions, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and I love the sample pack you sent me from them, and I fell so in love with it. I thought I got to figure this out, so I've alchemized it, and now I make my own. I found white organic balsamic vinegar, and I'm doing infusions. I have a cilantro one. I'm just because I think it's a genius idea, and I like that I can use it in places where I'm taking oil out and bringing flavor in. I love what they came up with, but me being the alchemist that I am, I found a way to make it on my own. So
that's fantastic. And her name is Gina Wolf, by the way. Just
okay.
So your newest fan who's in love with you. Well, you are amazing. Thank you. We just love having you on. You're just, like I said at the beginning, you're a chef. And I just enjoy watching you work.
Thanks. So it's Plant Food Chef on YouTube, Plant Food Chef on Instagram, on Facebook, any of those places, private message me. I'm getting ready to launch. What I'm going to do in this new program is it's going to be a select few, but I'm going to allow some people in at a greatly discounted rate because we're going to create this curriculum together. I have what I know is incredible stuff from A to Z that I want to take people through, but I want to see what people want and need out there. And we're going to build this curriculum together through live classes, interaction, some recorded, but a lot of live. And if people want to take that inaugural event with me and come in and help build this new plant food culinary program, it's Plant Food Culinary. I'm the Plant Food Chef. Plant Food Culinary is what the school will be, and we're going to build it together. So if you want to take part in that, let me know. You can message me on any of the different formats, and even plantfoodchef@gmail.com, and if you're interested in taking this adventure with me, get your name to me. I'm starting a list, and it's going to be fun.
Great. Well, a lot of people are interested. So maybe before you launch it, come back on and we'll, be doing it, posting it here. Because people keep saying, where do I contact him? Where's the recipes? Guys, it's always in the show notes, but you can only see show notes on YouTube. So Facebook people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I will put, I put the other one, and this one will also be on my YouTube channel as well. But Chef AJ's YouTube channel, any of the demos you're going to watch on there, the recipe's always there.
You know what, James, I never offered you this, but if you want any of your appearances, you can just have downloads and put that on your channel too. If you like, I'd be happy to give you those.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right.
That'd be great.
Okay. And Lavonda says, please bring him back and show us how to make the vinegar. So I will have him whenever he's available.
Yeah.
It's all about
and I'm also teaching at the Vegan Fusion Academy in Boulder, Colorado. And that was a blast. We just had our first Zoom. They were going to be flying me in for live teaching for their raw vegan segment of their chef program there. But we did it right here from my kitchen. That's what I got all this set up for, is so that I could pull that class off. And it was great. We went and made a lot of incredible raw food for an entire, very long day, interactive with all the students. So you can check out the Vegan Fusion program. That's Mark Reinfeld's program in Boulder, Colorado, too, if you want to go to a live chef training that's spectacular. And their kitchen they have built out is gorgeous. I haven't even been there in person. I just see it on Zoom. Really, really fantastic. I'm happy to see Mark bringing that to the stage for the vegan chefing world. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for an amazing presentation. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at a different time, 2 p.m. Pacific time, when my guest is food addiction specialist, Dr. Joan Iflin. Thanks again, James. You're incredible.
All right. Thanks.